stick with me because it proves God's goodness, and it proves how wonderful and faithful He is, even in the midst of our suffering, even in the midst of our unfaithfulness to Him. He's taught me so much and grown my faith so much in this moment that I'll never doubt Him again, like ever. Whenever something comes up and we face a trial, I'm just like, it's fine, God's got it, because honestly, you can't go back from what I've experienced. So, yeah, I was always wanted to be a mother, but back when I was not saved, it was all for the wrong reasons, all for selfish reasons. I wanted to be a mother so that someone would love me and never leave me, and they would need me. It was all about me, me, me. It wasn't about me having a child and growing this little blessing. It was about me. So I wasn't ready when I actually fell pregnant. I wasn't ready emotionally. I wasn't ready financially. I wasn't even with the right person. But I had my little son. In the midst of having my son, though, I was facing depression, and I was fighting it every day. It had been a consuming thing in my life since I was very, very young, since primary school. So when I had my son, and I thought, okay, I've got this baby now, everything's going to be better. It's going to fill this void in my heart, this emptiness that I've always felt. It's going to be filled. I'm going to be whole because I've got this, or what I always wanted. I've got a child. But that's not how it works. You have a child and things are hard. You get tired and it's difficult. And my son, although I love him, was a very difficult baby. He had a lot of issues that kept us, awake most nights, and a lot of stress. So that whole feeling of, everything's going to be perfect now wasn't there. It was, I'm still empty. I've still got this void, and now it's really hard on top of everything. So, in the midst of that, my relationship broke down and the depression got worse because all of a sudden I'm struggling, and now I'm alone as well because my partner had left, and it was just all too much. So one day at my very worst, I drove up to Picnic Point with my son in the car, and I sat there and I contemplated and calculated how fast I would have to go to break through the barricade at the end so that we wouldn't survive. It was a very dark time, and I was ready to do it. I was like, this is it, it's all over today, we're going, but at least we're going together. And then I looked back and saw my son sleeping in his car seat, and I thought, I can't do that. Can't do that to my little boy. I'm going to keep fighting for him. After that, God gave me a dream, and I wasn't saved at this point, so for me it was like a wow moment, because I knew within my heart that it was from God. I woke up in my bed in this dream, like it was so real that it was my bedroom, and I looked out my window, and as I looked out my window I saw this silhouette of a man in light in the clouds. And I knew in my heart instantly, I was like, oh, that's Jesus. He's coming. He's come back. It's all real. And then I realized I wasn't going with him. I was missing out. He was not taking me with him. And at that point I knew that he was real. Just instantly knew that Jesus was real. Everything I had learned about growing up was real. And when I woke up for real, because that was a dream, when I woke up, I had this grief in my heart, like it had actually happened. Like Jesus had come and I'd missed out. And then, so I went downstairs and I was half expecting my parents to be gone because, well, they would have gone for sure. But they were there, and I was all really confused by it. I struggled with this dream. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't get it out of my mind for so long. And then I finally said to my mom, I was like, what do I have to do to be saved? Because I don't want to miss out. I really don't want Jesus to come back and be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going with you. So I got saved with Mum. She led me through. Sorry. And I started going to church. But we tried out some churches and nothing felt better. So the doubt came because I was like, okay, it's all supposed to be fixed now, right? Nothing was fixed. Nothing was better. I had the doubt. I still had the depression. I was still struggling. I was still fighting. So one night I just broke down to Mum and I was crying out to her and I said, Mum, I'm really struggling. This isn't how my life was supposed to turn out. Like, I'm all alone. No one's ever going to love me again. I had a 10-pound baby that wrecked everything. He's very proud of it. He's over there. I was like, no one's going to love me again. I'm going to be alone forever. I'm never going to achieve anything. And, this is as good as it gets. Like, nothing's ever going to go right for me. And I was crying out to Mum, and then the next morning she said, okay, let's try one more church. We'll try a different one this time, and we'll see how you go. And I'm like, okay, all right, we'll go. So the next morning we go off to this new church, and I just felt like I should go up for prayer. So I went up for prayer, and as I stood there, the lady that approached me, she stood in front of me, and she just started saying, God sees you. He sees that you're disappointed in how your life turned out. And I take a step back, and I'm like, hang on, what's happening here? Because I had never experienced a word of knowledge or a word from God. This was all new to me. She says, God sees you, He knows you, and He's got great things planned for your life, great things for your future. He knows who your husband is, and He's already making a way for him to meet you. He's already readying your husband to come into your life. And that we were going to be surrounded by children, and He was going to do great things in my life. And so on and so on. All these wonderful things that was an answer to everything I had cried out for the night before. It was like she was standing in the room with me when I was crying out to Mum, saying everything that I was missing, she had an answer for. So I was like, okay, this is it. God's real. Like, how I've, had the dream. I've had a word from Him. It's all real. But like many new Christians, when they get saved, I was expecting Him to just be like a magic wand, like, ta-da, everything's fixed. All your problems are gone because now you believe in me. And it just doesn't work like that. Even though I still believed, everything wasn't fixed. So, I was just going about my life thinking, what do I do, Lord? What do I do to make things better? So I just gave myself to Him completely. And I was like, help me through everything. Every ounce of my life, I just trusted to Him. I stood on the word that I was going to meet my husband one day, so the loneliness started to subside because I had hope for my husband. I prayed for my husband every day, even though I didn't know his name. I would pray for him and I'd be like, thank you, Lord, keep him safe. And so that gave me hope for my loneliness. And then I would get to know God, and I would learn Him, learn His ways and His personality, get into a relationship with Him, because it's not just about religion, it's about relationship. And so I was getting to know Him, and I was learning all of these beautiful things about Him and who He is. And as you start to change things in your life to align with God, He aligns Himself with you as well, and you start to align your feet onto His path that He's, planned out for you. If you don't align yourself with God, you can't step on that path. You can't be 1 foot in the world and 1 foot within the kingdom of God. So I was diving into the kingdom of God with both feet, and I was starting to learn all these things like renewing your mind. Like in Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. So, I was learning about renewing my mind. Okay, this is a process. This isn't an overnight thing. This is something that you have to actually work on, and it's like training for you. You're not going to be perfect at everything right away. It takes practice. So renewing my mind started on focusing on what is good, starting to not focus on what is bad or what is wrong or what I'm missing or what I'm lacking, but focusing on what is good and focusing on God. Proverbs 15:15 says, "For the despondent, every day brings trouble, but for happy heart, life is a continual feast." So I just focused on, okay, I've just got to be happy. I've got to focus on being happy, and life will be a feast, right? So I'm going to focus on that. So I'm doing all of this stuff in my own strength with God. He was helping me to transform the way I was thinking and the way I was, seeing each day, and then the way I was speaking over each day. Like in Proverbs 18:21, when it says death and life are in the tongue. It's because if you're speaking death over yourself every single day, you're going, oh, nothing good ever happens. Everything's too hard. Nothing good ever happens to me. All of that is speaking death over you. So I changed the way I was speaking. Okay, something great's going to happen today. Maybe today's the day I meet my husband, Give yourself hope. Give yourself something to look forward to. And I found that as such a useful tool to make plans to look forward to. Even if it was like a month out or, 2 months out, make something to focus on and to look forward to, because hope is so powerful. Hope is such a strong thing. If you have got no hope, then you're just going through each day just like another day, So, yeah, I was learning, renewing your mind. Okay, focus on good things. Stop thinking all this negativity. Okay, control my tongue. Speak good over me, not negative over me. But nothing can compare with just spending time with God and learning to worship. Worship is so powerful. There's a song that says, "My melodies are the waters my enemies drown in." And it is so powerful because worship is something that's eternal. There was worship in heaven long before the world existed. And there's worship now. We worship God, and there's going to be worship after the world is long gone. Worship is so eternal. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful way to connect with Him. So learning to worship and to pray and to just be with Him and develop a relationship, because if you want a relationship with God, you have to spend time with Him. It's like having a friend or a partner. If you ignore your friend or your partner, that relationship's going to get pretty sour pretty quick. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to turn his back on you, but there's a distance that grows when you're not spending time with Him. And it actually affects our own spirit. I know when I haven't spent time with God, I start to get moody and cranky. My husband will tell you. I start to get like, what's wrong with me? I'm all irritated. I'm all frustrated. What's going on? Been a couple of days. I've been busy. I've been wrapped up in life and in kids and everything like that. So I'm missing my God. I'm missing my Jesus. Haven't spent any time with Him. So one day, after I'd done all this work of getting to know Him and learning Him and learning to hear His voice for myself, because that was huge for me. After this lady had given me a word that essentially changed my life, I wanted to be able to hear that for myself. Not just for me, but so I could help other people as well. So one day I was at a worship night. It was this really beautiful night. It was just so great. Everyone was just singing along to a guitar, and it was really beautiful. And in the midst of it, they asked, just ask God to reveal something to you, reveal something that's going to change your life. And I was like, okay, God, I need you to reveal something to me. Like, what do I need to know? And He showed me the moment depression took seed in my life. He showed me one day at primary school when I was just a little girl. I went to school one day, and my little group of friends had left a note in my desk, my little tidy tray. I don't know if they have those anymore. I opened my little tidy tray, and there was a note in my desk that said, "No one likes you, and we think you should just go kill yourself." I was in about the 4th grade, and they had all signed it like an official document. Like, this is fact, and you just need to, know this. I didn't think much of it at that time. Being so little, I was just like, kids are mean. But that moment, that was a seed that was planted in my heart. And every time I agreed with that, every time I took that on as truth, like, yeah, no one does love me. No one likes me. I'm never going to amount to anything. So why don't I just, end it? Because I'm never going to become anything. Every time I agreed with that, God showed me that it grew roots deep into my soul. And every time I agreed, those branches, they grew and they entwined into every area of my life, every area of my being. And all of a sudden, I could see my silhouette with just this big, dead, evil-looking tree inside of me. And all of this work that I had been doing to train my mind and train my tongue to align with the kingdom of God was great, but it was like chopping off branches. Like, you might chop off a branch here and a branch there, but it just kept growing back because the root was still there. So I said, okay, God, I forgive those girls. They were just kids. They didn't know what they were doing. And I want you to rip out that root and fill the empty space with you. From that moment on, I can tell you, depression was gone. I may have been working on it for years, trying to deal with it and trying to overcome it in my own strength and also with God's help by learning, the right way to go about it. But unless you find the root of the issue, it's always going to be there. And God, because I had learnt his voice and learnt to understand who he is, he was able to show me and reveal to me that because I had done the work. From that moment on, I was like, no more depression. I am done with you. One day I found this folder and it had like artworks I had done in high school, and they were really depressing artworks. They were like miserable. And I was like, nah, I am not having this in my home. I didn't even know this was here. I tore them all out and I was standing on them. Real prophetically, I was stomping on the artworks and I'm like, depression, you are under my feet from now on. You will never have power in my life ever again. And I ripped them up and I threw them out. It was real, symbolic for me to just get rid of that for good. So, yeah, I was feeling pretty free. When I met my husband, this was before the worship night, so when I met my husband, it was really great because I got to fall in love and was such a beautiful guy, and he's everything God promised me and more. And we got married, and then I became a bonus mum. So I have a beautiful stepson. So that was my second child, and I love him like my own. But we said to each other, we'd really love a little girl. Always wanted a little girl. And we had 2 boys. One little girl would just tie off our little family, perfect little knot. So I was super excited for that because that was our plan and that's what we wanted for our life. And then one day, the same lady who had given me the word about my life, I'm showing her some photos, and as she's looking at them, she takes a second look and she's like, I thought I saw you 2 holding a baby girl. She had this vision. She's like, you were standing in front of the Christmas tree, the one at like Queen's Park, or the big Christmas tree with lights. You were standing there together and you were holding a baby girl. And I was like, oh, wow, I got goosebumps all over and I got really excited. And I was like, that's what we want. We want a baby girl. That would be amazing. So we held on to that and we picked her name and everything. Yeah, we're like, yeah, we're going to have a girl. This is going to be her name. God told us. God keeps his promises. So when we fell pregnant, we were so excited. We're like, yes, we're having a baby girl. This is it. It's all happening. I can't believe it. And we go to the ultrasound, and when we get to the ultrasound, the lady says, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. That pain is not only of loss of something you love, like when you lose like a loved one, it's like deep grief, but that loss of excitement and, expectation and joy and everything, it was so crushing. It was absolutely shattering to us. But we were just like, it's okay. It's all good. God's got us. It's fine. And it was really hard, but I would just worship. I would just put on worship and I would just sing. I would put on songs like I'll Praise You in the Storm, and I would just praise him with tears streaming down my face. And every time I did, it was so comforting. It was like he was wrapping his arms around me. So I was like, I'm just going to worship you every single day until I feel better. And so I did. And then one day I went to church and this lady walks up to me. Never met her before. I think it was like her second time there ever. And she walks up and she goes, "You've just lost a baby." I burst into tears and I'm like, "How did you know that? Who told you?" Because we kept it all to ourselves. But she hands me this little dress. And she says, "It'll be Phil one day." And I just was like, oh, what a beautiful confirmation, God. First the vision and now this little dress. It's so beautiful. I'll hold on to that. And so we held on to that joy and that expectation and that hope that we were going to get our little girl. And then we fell pregnant a second time. But it didn't last long before we lost that one too. By the time we lost the second one, I couldn't sing. I would try to worship, but the words wouldn't come out. Just nothing would come out. So I thought, I need to spend time with God. I need to feel him comforting me like he did the first time, but I just can't worship. So I would sit and I would paint. And to paint is such a beautiful way to connect with God, to create anything, because he is the creator of the universe. He is the creator of everything seen and unseen. So to create with him is such a beautiful way to connect and just be with him. And it's such a beautiful form of worship. And it doesn't matter how we worship him, as long as we are worshiping him in spirit and in truth. So I would sit and I'd paint and I would feel him comforting me and talking to me and giving me scriptures that would help me. Like, though the mountains may shake, my love will not be removed from you. And yeah, it was beautiful to just sit with him. And I was like, okay, God, are we meant to have a baby girl? That doubt starts to come back in. Even though we'd had the vision, we'd had the dress, all of a sudden I was like, okay, I don't know, Lord, is this what I want or is this what you want? So he said to me, what does the name you've picked mean? I was like, I don't know, I just picked it. It was cute. So I looked it up and I burst into tears when I saw it means wished for child. And I was like, oh my gosh, God, I didn't even know. So we held on to that because we were like, okay, she's our wished for child. Now we've got the vision, we've got the dress, we've got the word from God I've received myself. I'm like, okay, this is all happening. And then we fell pregnant the third time. And you know, when you fall pregnant, there's always this rule with people that you don't tell anyone until you're 12 weeks, because if you're not 12 weeks, you could lose it and rah, rah. It's so negative. And when you lose a baby before that time, no one knows. No one's there to comfort you. No one's there to help you through it. So I was like, all right, I'm pregnant. This time I am going to tell everyone. Everyone's going to know, hey guys, I'm pregnant. I need you to pray. I need you to pray. I need you to pray. Everyone pray. I'm going to make a group chat. You're all praying for me and this baby, all right? We're all praying. Everyone's praying. I was on it. I was standing so much on faith. We bought baby girl clothes. We bought blankets. I wore a bracelet every day that had her name on it. I was like, I'm making this big show of my faith. And I'm going to stand on this. And I'm going to get my baby girl. So I made it really far this time. And I was super excited. I was like, it's working. We went to the ultrasound, had the ultrasound. Everything looks really good. It's healthy. It's in a good spot. Everything's great. I was like, awesome. Everything's working. This is our baby girl. So I was in that mindset of, this is the one. What God brings together, no man can separate. You know, I spoke his word over us every day. I prayed over us every day. And then one day, I got into a disagreement with someone. And out of nowhere, She charges at me and grabs my clothes and starts screaming and spitting in my face, screaming, "I hope your baby dies." It was a full-blown manifestation, if I had ever seen one. And I was shook to my core that what had just happened. I went home and I was so in shock that I threw up all night long. And by the morning, we had lost our third baby. So that drop from that height, that I'm getting my baby girl, to it's all gone, was crushing. I tell you what, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't worship. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't paint. I couldn't even bring myself to read the Bible, spend time with Him. I was angry. I was angry at myself. I was angry at that person. I was angry at God. And I like to say I was a real Job, but sorry, I'm not. I was not a Job at all. I was a wreck, and I was so angry at Him. I was like, we did everything, God. We prayed. We had everyone praying. You didn't protect me. We stood on faith, and where were you? I was so angry. And then I was driving my son to school one day, jumped in the car, started driving, and as I'm driving along, I hear this voice say, "There's a truck coming the other way, just pull in front of it, it'll all be over." And I was like, what? I sat there fuming the rest of the way. I dropped my son off at school, I turned around, I pulled up at the side of the road, and then I got angry. But this time it was a good anger. It was like a fire had been lit inside of me, and I was like, how dare you, devil? How dare you bring that on me again? How dare you try and tell me to take out myself and my son? You already tried once before. I was angry this time, but this time it was for all the right reasons. It was that I wasn't going to let him win. I was not going to let the devil tell me that I had no worth, I had no value, and it was all over. So I went home and I was so determined. I was fired up. I was like, I am going to shower because it's been a while. And I am going to clean the house because it's a mess. And it is on. Like, I am fired up. That's it. I need to have a shower. Okay, I'm going to go have a shower. So I went and had a shower. And as I was in the shower, this poem just started to bubble up inside of me and just flowed out. I've only written like a poem like maybe once in my life, so I was in shock, and I'm okay, I could grab a pen. Jumped out the shower, grabbed a pen, and I'm like scribbling it down as fast as I can because I was like, this is from God, this is from God. Because I couldn't do this myself. So I really want to share that with you if it's okay. Give me a second. So life-giving God gave to me a life within about to begin, not one or two, but three. One came and went so fast it seemed, the heart broke, the soul mourned, and the tears streamed. Long awaited two appeared, we go to see a little heart beating, but emptiness confirms what we feared. Pain still so strong, and all of a sudden, number 3 was in the oven. This is the one I know in my heart. God brought us together and nothing will tear us apart. But God, what is this? How could it be? For the third time, Lord, please, no, don't do this to me. Heartbreak turns to anger, and oh, the things I said. I'm held captive by my emotions, a prisoner in my own bed. The serpent comes to whisper in my ear, you failed again, and where is your God? I don't see him here. You should just quit, run, give up. After all, you're no good, you just don't measure up. Beaten down to the ground, face to the floor, I fight to my knees, I can go no more. But here on my knees is where I need to be. I scream out, oh Lord, please forgive me. I pray, oh life-giving God, once more, please grant me the life to the heart inside, but this time to the one at my core. Take it all, Jesus, my grief and my loss. I lay it all at your feet on the cross. Then I hear him say to me, O daughter, in you I have found the strength of a warrior. You won't be kept down. Continue to fight with me at your side and know I have never left you. I was there every time you cried. Life-giving God gave to me the greatest gifts 1, 2, and 3, but nothing compared to setting me free. So as I wrote that down, I wrote it all in one hit, no draft necessary. It would just flowed out of me. And I heard God say in such a clear voice, the fourth will be born. The fourth will be born. So I had some tests done, and the doctor told me I had to have a procedure done on my cervix that if I didn't get it done, I would end up with cervical cancer. He said, this procedure means you won't be able to try for a baby for at least a year. And even if you do, the chances of holding a pregnancy are very slim. I was so confused. I was like, what is happening, God? We just overcome this. You said the fourth will be born. That means I'll be pregnant for a fourth time. It just didn't sit right with me. And every appointment I went to align this, I was like, I feel sick. I told my husband, I said, I feel sick about this. It is like the Holy Spirit is yelling at me not to get this procedure done. He's like, I don't know, what do you want to do? I'll stand with whatever you want. And I said, okay, I think we don't do it. I think we just keep trying for our baby. And we'll deal with it later. He's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, I'll stand by your side. So I went back and I told my doctor, I said, I'm not doing it. He's like, he got angry at me and he's like, if you don't get it, you're going to get cervical cancer and you're going to die. I was like, no, I won't. No, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to have you speak that over me. I'm going to have my baby and I'm going to deal with this later, if there's anything to deal with. A month later, the very next month, I found out I was pregnant with number 4. And just as God said, he was born. Yes, you heard it right. He was born. My little son, you've probably seen him running around. He is my fiery little redhead. He is a ball of fun, but man, we were confused. What? We just went through all this. We went through 3 losses. We stood on faith. We got pregnant a 4th time. We're waiting for our girl. You promised us a girl. You gave us a vision and a dress and a word and a name, and we have a boy. Wouldn't change it for the world. He is a beautiful little blessing. He is a blessing from God, and his name means as such. So we're trying to deal with 3 boys, and Ezrin is, let's just say his red hair suits him well. He is a fiery little boy. So he was about a year old. I went back to the doctor and I said, okay, I've had my baby. I am prepared to deal with this if I need to deal with this now. So we get more tests done, get everything scanned, and they said, what are you talking about? There's no active cells here. There is no sign of anything that you would suggest you need this procedure. I was like, what? I was completely healed. And, I've heard that babies can heal mothers as they are growing, and I believe wholeheartedly that Ezrin healed me inside and out, spirit and body. Having him healed me. And then after his first birthday, my husband and I were in absolute shock to find out we were pregnant again. We were not ready to try again. But we fell pregnant anyways, and that was our beautiful little girl. This time I didn't need to make a big show of, I'm pregnant, everyone pray for me, I'm going to stand on faith, rah, 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 because I knew in my heart God's got this. And he had got it. He took care of it. I had no problems. And as you can see, we got to stand in front of the Christmas tree holding my baby girl, just like the vision my friend had had. God's timing is so perfect that the only years we never went to these lights, we go to these lights every single year because we loved them. The only years we never went was when Ezrin was a baby because they were shut down for COVID. So that I never stood in front of the lights with a baby boy. I didn't see that because it didn't happen. And then the very next year I stood there holding my baby girl. Look, I am glad for everything we went through. Yes, it was really tough and it was such a struggle. It was painful, unlike anything I'd ever felt. The pain was so much. But without that pain, without that trial, I would never have grown my faith to the extent that I have. Now when something comes up against us, like when Jamie lost his job or we found out we had to move, I'm just like, God's got it. He will take care of it. I mean, He is so faithful, even in the fact that I was not faithful. I was angry and I was bitter and I was yelling at Him and I was cursing Him and I was blaming Him for everything that went wrong. But He's still faithful. He still came through for me. He still stood on His promises. And you don't have to worry about your future when you place your future in God's hand. Just like that song we sung before. You don't have to worry about your future. You just give your future to Him and He will make a way where there seems no way. Even when the doctors were telling me I needed to have a procedure, I didn't. Even when I had lost 3 and I didn't know if this little girl was coming because I'd had a son after that, He always makes a way, even in the face of utter disappointment. So yeah, I just wanted to open up prayer for anyone who is struggling with depression or who is struggling with finding the root of an issue that they want to deal with. Any mums who have lost a child or are wanting to have a child, I would love to pray for you and get like Pastor Pete and everyone else to come up and pray as well. So if I can give you one bit of advice from my story, thank you for listening to it. I appreciate it, but have faith. He is faithful. And just trust your entire future to Him because He always makes a way.